Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of book writing.
Oh, great.
Specifically, why a well-researched outline can be like your secret weapon, to actually finishing that book that
Absolutely.
you've been dreaming of. And our guide for this exploration is this article by Carma Spence titled, Why a Well-Researched Outline Helps You Finish Your Book.
It's a topic that might seem pretty basic, like on the surface, but
Sure.
really a lot more to it than you might think at first.
Absolutely. And Spence kicks things off with this really intriguing analogy
Okay.
of the rabbit author versus the turtle author.
I love that.
Like all that like impulsive energy, just diving right into the writing, just letting the words flow.
Yeah, just go with the flow.
Versus the turtle, who
Wow.
takes much more measured and methodical approach, like carefully plotting out each step of the way.
Totally different approaches.
Right, and it makes you think like, okay, which one are you? Which one are you?
Yeah, which one are you?
When you sit down to write.
For sure.
And Spence doesn't shy away from pointing out like the pitfalls of that, that rabbit author's impulsiveness.
Right. It can be exciting in the beginning,
Yeah, that initial burst of energy, and then it just fizzles out.
You lose steam and that could lead to writer's block.
Totally.
A waste of time going off on all these tangents.
Oh, yeah.
And in the end, you end up with all these unfinished projects.
So many unfinished projects.
I think we've all been there at some point.
We have all been there.
Right.
And that's where that turtle author's like super methodical approach really shines.
Yeah, they understand the power of a really well-defined outline.
It's like having that blueprint.
It's a blueprint for your book,
Yeah.
You wouldn't start building a house without like a super detailed plan first, would you?
Right.
And it's the same thing with a book. The turtle author like meticulously maps out every single chapter.
Wow.
Making sure there's a super clear path from beginning to end.
There's one specific detail that Spence highlights that really stood out to me.
Okay, what's that?
She says the turtle author only starts writing when the outline is clear, concise, and fulfills her brand promise while addressing what her readers are looking for.
Okay, now that is interesting.
It's not just about creating an outline just to have one.
Right.
It's about aligning your book's content with your personal brand.
Yeah.
And the needs of your target audience, which means thinking critically about what you bring to the table. What's your unique perspective?
Right.
And what do you actually want this book to achieve?
What do you want to do with it?
What's the goal?
Yeah.
So it's almost like building a business plan for your book. You're thinking about your target market, your unique selling proposition, and how does your book fit into the larger picture?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And by weaving research into the process of outlining,
Okay, research?
you're not just writing a book, you're writing the right book.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what kind of research are we talking about here? Because it can't just be finding a few fun facts to sprinkle throughout the chapters.
No, it's much deeper than that. Think about market research.
Okay.
Who are your ideal readers? What are they struggling with? What are their pain points? What are their interests?
Yeah.
What are those burning questions that are keeping them up at night?
What do they want to know?
You might even, look into what your competition is doing, like competitive analysis.
Okay.
What are the other books out there on your topic? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Where are the gaps that maybe your book can fill?
So you're basically gathering intelligence before you even start writing.
Yeah.
So that way you can be sure your book is not only well-informed,
Right.
but it's also tailored to that specific audience that you're trying to reach.
And it stands out from the crowd.
It stands out. So all that research, how does that inform the outline?
Well, it helps you shape each chapter, okay, and each section to really address those, needs and interests that you uncovered in your research.
This is really starting to paint a picture of how powerful, a well-researched outline can be.
It is.
It's not just about organization. It's about strategy and intention.
Intentionality.
And what's really fascinating here is that this approach can actually impact not just the writing process itself,
Yeah,
but also the potential success of your book.
absolutely. And that brings us to another key point that Spence highlights.
Okay.
The potential for attracting new clients through your book.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about using a book as a marketing tool?
We are.
That's a whole other level.
It is, and it's something that a lot of authors don't even think about.
Interesting.
Spence argues that by positioning yourself as an expert through your book,
Okay.
you can actually attract clients who are already interested in what you have to offer.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's unpack this a bit. How does a well-researched outline play into this idea of attracting clients?
It really comes down to intentionality and clarity.
Okay.
When you research your target audience and you weave those insights into your outline, you're basically making sure that your book delivers that valuable content that's going to resonate with them.
Got it.
And this can position you as a thought leader in your field,
Oh, okay.
which makes you a lot more attractive to potential clients who are looking for solutions and expertise.
So it's not just about writing any book. It's about writing the right book.
Right.
One that strategically positions you as the expert
Exactly.
and speaks directly to the needs of like your ideal client.
Precisely.
Ah.
And a well-researched outline is the foundation for making all of that happen.
Wow. There's so much more to this than I initially realized. It's like the difference between just writing a book and building a platform for your expertise.
That's a great way to put it, and it all starts with taking a step back and asking yourself some key questions
Yeah.
about your goals and your audience before you even write that first word.
Before you write anything.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you tend to be more of a rabbit author or a turtle author when you approach a writing project?
Oh, man. I got to admit, I used to be a staunch rabbit author.
Really?
Just diving headfirst into that creative process. But over time, I've really learned to embrace the wisdom of the turtle.
What shifted your perspective?
It was really experiencing that frustration of hitting those inevitable roadblocks.
Right.
Those moments when you just feel totally lost and overwhelmed.
Oh, I've been there.
It really drove home the importance of planning and research.
I can totally relate to that. I think we've all been there at some point.
We have.
So how did you start incorporating like more of that turtle author methodology into your writing process?
Well, it started with just like a simple shift in mindset.
Okay.
Like recognizing that spending time on research and outlining wasn't a chore. It was actually a strategic investment in the quality and the success of the project.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
And like practically speaking, I started by just, experimenting with different outlining techniques.
Like what?
Like mind mapping, creating detailed chapter breakdowns. I even started using software tools
Oh, wow.
that helped me like visualize the structure of the book.
Interesting.
It was all about just like finding what worked best for me.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all.
No.
It's about finding the tools and the techniques that work for you.
That help you create that clear roadmap for your writing.
And the more you embrace this approach, the more you realize that it's not about stifling creativity.
Not at all.
It's actually about like channeling it effectively. So you're not sacrificing that initial spark of inspiration.
No.
You're actually giving it a clear path to follow.
Exactly. And that, I believe, is the key to not only finishing a book, but also creating one that really resonates with your audience.
Yeah.
And actually achieves what you set out to do.
This is all incredibly insightful. I'm already starting to think about how I can apply these principles to my own creative projects.
That's fantastic.
It's amazing how such a simple shift in approach can make such a huge difference in the outcome.
Yeah, it really can.
Now let's dig a little deeper into some of the specific outlining strategies and research techniques that Spence highlights in her article.
Okay, let's do it.
She offers some really practical advice that I think our listeners are going to find super valuable.
For sure. And I'm really excited to discuss her insights on how to tailor your research to specific genres and book formats.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Let's get into it.
All right. So one of the things that Spence really emphasizes is that research, it isn't like a one-size-fits-all approach. The type of research that you do is really going to vary depending on like what genre you're writing in, like what type of book you're creating.
That makes sense. You wouldn't
Yeah.
approach research for a historical fiction novel the same way that you would for like a self-help book?
Exactly. Like if you're writing historical fiction, you might spend a ton of time like digging into those primary sources, really immersing yourself in the time period, studying all those cultural nuances and really making sure that you're, being historically accurate.
Got to be accurate.
But with a self-help book, your research might focus more on like the latest scientific studies, expert opinions or case studies that like really support the strategies and advice that you're offering.
So it's about tailoring your research to the specific needs of your book.
Right.
And your target audience.
Exactly. And it's not even just about the type of research,
Oh, okay.
but also like how you actually integrate it into your outline.
Yeah. How do you bring it all together?
Like, for example, Spence suggests using your research to actually inform the structure of your chapters.
Oh, interesting.
So like, let's say you're writing a business book
Okay.
and your research reveals that your target audience is like really struggling with, this one specific challenge. You could like dedicate an entire chapter to addressing that challenge and use your research to like provide them with, practical solutions and actionable advice.
So you're using that research to not just inform the content of your book,
Yeah.
but also to shape its structure and the flow.
Yeah, and that's where outlining is just so powerful.
Okay.
It allows you to organize all that research that you've done, identify those key themes and arguments, and make sure that your book is delivering a really cohesive and impactful message.
I know some people might be thinking okay, this outlining thing sounds great in theory,
Yeah.
but where do I even begin? Do you have any tips for people who are new to outlining?
Yeah, absolutely. The first step is to just, get your ideas down on paper.
Okay.
Don't worry about making it perfect at this stage. Just brainstorm freely.
Yeah.
Just, jot down all those key topics, arguments, stories that you want to include.
So just like a brain dump.
Just a brain dump. Get it all out there. And once you have a good collection of ideas,
Okay.
you can start organizing them into a more structured outline.
All right.
Think about the flow of your book. What needs to come first
Yeah.
to lay that groundwork for later chapters?
Right.
What are those key turning points in your narrative?
It's like piecing together a puzzle.
It is like a puzzle. You got to figure out how all the pieces fit together to create that complete picture.
Right.
And as you're working on your outline,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to play around with different methods.
Okay.
Some people prefer a more linear approach,
Yeah.
outlining each chapter in chronological order.
Just step by step.
Yeah. But others might use mind maps or other visual tools to help them, brainstorm and connect ideas.
So it's all about finding what works best for you and your creative process.
And remember, your outline isn't set in stone.
Oh, okay.
It's like a living document.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to, revise it and refine it as you go, especially as you get deeper into your research and your writing.
Spence actually mentions a couple of those interesting outlining techniques that I wanted to touch on. She talks about using mind mapping and creating chapter breakdowns.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on those a little bit?
Sure. Mind mapping is basically a visual brainstorming technique
Oh, okay.
where you start with your central idea and then you branch out connecting related concepts and subtopics.
So it's almost like creating a visual map of your book.
It is. It's a map of your book's landscape.
I like that.
And it can be super helpful for people who are more visual
Yeah.
or who just, struggle with those more linear outlining methods.
Right.
Chapter breakdowns, on the other hand, involve going into more detail for each chapter.
So breaking it down even further.
Yeah, this might include outlining key arguments, supporting evidence, anecdotes, maybe even potential chapter titles.
So it's like creating a mini outline for each chapter within the larger outline of the book.
Exactly. And this can be really helpful when you actually sit down to write.
Right.
It's like having a roadmap for each chapter.
Okay.
And make sure that you stay focused and on track.
I know, from personal experience, outlining can feel a little daunting at first, especially if you're used to a more free-flowing writing style.
For sure.
Do you have any advice for those who are kind of hesitant to embrace outlining?
I would say just start small.
Okay.
You don't have to create this super detailed outline right from the get-go.
Right.
Even a basic outline
Okay.
with, your key chapter headings and a rough idea of the flow can be really helpful.
So it's about finding that balance between structure and flexibility.
Exactly. And remember, the goal of outlining isn't to stifle your creativity.
Right.
It's to enhance it.
Okay.
When you create a clear framework,
Yeah.
you actually free up your mental energy to focus on the actual writing because you know that you have that solid foundation to build on.
It's like having a safety net
It is.
that lets you take more risks and explore new ideas without being afraid of getting lost.
That's a great way to put it. And as you get more comfortable with outlining,
Okay.
you can gradually add more detail and structure as needed. So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah. And that's where research comes in. Again,
Research is key.
by understanding your target audience and what they're actually looking for,
Right.
you can make sure that your book is delivering valuable content that resonates with them while also showcasing your skills and your expertise.
It's like finding that Venn diagram overlap
Okay.
between your passions, your knowledge, and the needs of your audience.
I love that.
When you find that sweet spot, you can create a book that's both creatively fulfilling
Right.
and commercially successful.
So let's get into some practical tips for incorporating that client attracting element into your book.
Right.
What are some specific strategies that Spence recommends?
One of the key strategies is to really focus on providing value to your readers.
Okay.
Your book should offer them solutions to their problems.
Right.
insights that help them grow or stories that inspire them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to share your knowledge generously.
Don't hold back.
Don't hold back. Give it all you got.
Give them the goods.
The more value you provide, the more trust you build,
Right.
and the more likely people are to see you as that valuable resource.
That makes sense. It's about building a relationship with your reader
It is.
based on generosity.
Generosity.
And expertise.
And another strategy that Spence highlights is to include a clear call to action in your book.
Okay. A call to action. What does that look like?
This could be an invitation to visit your website, sign up for your email list, or book a consultation.
So you're giving people a way to connect with you.
Yeah, you're giving them a clear path to connect with you and learn more.
I like it.
And this doesn't have to be a hard sell.
Right.
It can be as simple as mentioning your website or social media handles at the end of each chapter, or, including a brief bio at the back of your book.
Making it easy for people to find you.
Yeah, make it easy for them to find you and keep that conversation going.
Yeah, continue the conversation beyond the book.
Exactly. And just remember, the key is to be authentic and genuine in your approach.
Right.
Don't try to force a connection or manipulate readers into becoming clients.
It's got to be organic.
It's about building those relationships naturally.
Yeah.
Based on mutual trust and shared interests.
When you approach it from that perspective, attracting clients through your book can actually be a really natural and rewarding process.
It can be.
This has been so insightful. I'm starting to see how a well-researched outline can not only help you write a better book, but also create that platform for your expertise and connect with potential clients.
It's amazing how such a simple tool can have such a big impact.
It is.
On your writing and your business.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Do you have any final thoughts or key takeaways that you want to leave our listeners with?
Absolutely. The main takeaway I want to emphasize is this.
Okay.
A well-researched outline isn't just about organization. It's about strategy intentionality.
Okay.
And creating a book that truly serves your purpose, whether that's sharing your knowledge, inspiring others, or building your business.
It's about thinking bigger than just writing a book.
Yes.
It's about creating a platform for your ideas and your expertise.
Exactly. And remember, it all starts with taking that first step.
Okay. What's that?
Outlining your ideas, conducting thorough research, and crafting a book that really reflects your vision and resonates with your audience.
One of the things that really struck me throughout our conversation today is this idea of intentionality.
Yeah.
It's not just about writing a book to write a book. It's about having a clear purpose, a vision for what you actually want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. That intentionality, it's woven through every single part of the process, from choosing your topic, doing your research, to structuring that outline and then writing every chapter.
And it's so cool to see how a well-researched outline, it's like a roadmap guiding you towards that vision, helping you stay on track through all the inevitable ups and downs.
All those twists and turns.
Yeah, of the writing process.
It's like having a compass that keeps you going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Even when you're venturing into uncharted territory.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about your own experience as a writer.
Okay.
You talked about transitioning from that rabbit author to the turtle author approach. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling to make that shift?
That's a great question. I think the first step is to just acknowledge the challenges and the frustrations that you had with a more impulsive style of writing.
Okay.
We've all been there. We hit those walls. We feel overwhelmed.
And there.
We start questioning if we'll ever finish the project.
Totally.
It's about recognizing those patterns.
Yeah.
And being honest with yourself about what's working and what's not.
What's actually working.
Yeah. And then I would say, experiment with adding even small elements of structure into what you're doing.
Okay. How do you do that?
Maybe start by just creating a basic outline.
Okay.
With the main chapter headings.
Yeah.
Or, try a mind mapping exercise to visualize the connections between your ideas.
So just find those entry points.
Yeah, find those entry points that feel manageable.
Yeah.
And then gradually build from there.
And as you start to experience those benefits.
Yeah, that clarity.
Yeah.
That sense of direction, the progress that you're making.
It's oh, this is actually helpful.
Yeah. You'll naturally gravitate towards those methods that work best for you.
And I think it's important to point out, this isn't about becoming a rigid, formulaic writer.
Not at all.
It's about finding that balance that allows your creativity to thrive within that supportive framework.
It's about harnessing that initial spark and giving it the structure it needs
Yeah.
to turn into something amazing.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on the power of a well-researched outline.
Me too.
It really is the foundation for creating a book
Yeah.
that's not only well-written, but also strategically aligned with your goals and the needs of your audience.
Absolutely.
And if you're ready to dive deeper into all of Carma Spence's insights,
Yeah.
you can find a link to her full article in the show notes.
It's packed with great tips and strategies for writers at every level.
And remember, whether you're a seasoned author or you're just starting out, the journey of writing a book, it's an incredible adventure.
It is.
Embrace the process, experiment with different approaches, and most importantly, never stop learning and growing.
Never stop learning.
So until next time, happy outlining and happy writing.
What's up?